The drill made a horrible screaming sound as it cut through the crystal. Dr. Lisa Morgan winced and stepped back from the work area. She had been watching the alien crew work for 3 hours now, and her stomach felt sick with worry. "Stop," she called out to Commander Zaxthul, the tall, blue-skinned Zephyrian who led the dig team. "Please just stop for a moment." The commander's 4 eyes turned toward her with obvious annoyance. His translator device made his words sound flat and cold. "Human Morgan, we have discussed this many times. These crystals contain more energy than your entire home planet uses in a year. We will not stop our work because of your primitive fears." Lisa felt her face get hot with anger, but she kept her voice calm. "These aren't just crystals. Look at the way they're arranged. Look at the symbols carved around them. This whole temple is built like a shrine. We're destroying something sacred." Dr. Kellix, the insect-like Calarian scientist, made a clicking sound that Lisa knew meant laughter. "Sacred to whom? This planet has been dead for 10,000 years. No one worships here anymore." "That doesn't matter," Lisa said. She pointed to the massive crystal formation in the center of the temple. It was twice as tall as a person and glowed with soft blue light. "Some things stay sacred even when the people who made them are gone. Some things should be left alone." "Commander," Zaxthul's skin changed from blue to dark purple, which Lisa had learned meant he was getting angry. "You humans have been part of galactic society for less than 50 years. We Zephyrians have been exploring space for over 3,000 years. Do not presume to teach us about ancient civilizations." The other aliens in the dig team, 2 more Zephyrians, 3 Calarians, and a silent Etherian, all turned to look at Lisa. She could feel their judgment. To them, she was just a primitive human who didn't understand the advanced ways of galactic civilization. But Lisa had spent her whole life studying dead civilizations. She knew the difference between a power plant and a temple. She knew the difference between technology and religion. And everything about this place screamed that it was holy ground. The temple sat in the middle of a vast desert on the planet, Kalos Prime. The research ship Stellar Dawn had been orbiting the dead world for 3 months, and this was the biggest discovery they had made. The temple was carved from black stone and covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. The symbols seemed to move when no one was watching them. Inside the temple, the crystals were arranged in perfect patterns. Each one hummed with energy, and together they created a sound like singing. Lisa had recorded the sound and played it, back at different speeds. Sometimes it almost sounded like words, but in no language she recognized. "The energy readings are off the charts," Dr. Kellix said, waving his scanning device at the central crystal. "If we can extract just one of these crystals, we could power a space station for decades. And if we're wrong about what they are?" Lisa asked. "What if removing them causes something terrible to happen?" Commander Zaxthul made a dismissive gesture with his forearms. "Human Morgan, your species still believes in ghosts and spirits. We deal in science and facts. These crystals are simply very advanced energy storage devices left behind by some forgotten civilization." Lisa wanted to scream. She had tried to explain her concerns to the ship's captain, but he was a Zephyrian too, and he backed up his commander. She had sent messages to Earth asking for support, but Earth was 3 weeks away at faster-than-light speed. By the time help arrived, it would be too late. The drilling started again. The crystal began to crack, and the singing sound got louder. Lisa noticed that the other crystals around the temple were starting to glow brighter. The symbols on the walls were definitely moving now, shifting and changing like living things. "Something's happening," she said, but her voice was lost in the noise of the drill. The central crystal cracked with a sound like thunder. Light poured out of the crack, not normal light, but something that made Lisa's eyes water and her head spin. The singing became a roar, and the temperature in the temple dropped 20 degrees in seconds. "Stop the drill!" Lisa shouted. But it was too late. The crystal split in half with a noise like the world breaking. The light that poured out was blinding, and something else came with it. Lisa felt it rather than saw it. A presence, vast and ancient and absolutely furious. The temple began to shake. Dust and small rocks fell from the ceiling. The other crystals around the room started to crack and break, releasing more of that terrible light. The symbols on the walls were moving faster now, spinning and twisting in patterns that made Lisa dizzy to watch. "Everyone out!" Commander Zaxthul shouted, but his voice sounded small and frightened now. They ran from the temple as the shaking got worse. Outside, the desert sand was flying through the air in spirals, and the sky was turning dark despite the fact that it was the middle of the day. Above them, the research ship Stellar Dawn was flashing its emergency lights and trying to contact them on the radio. Lisa looked back at the temple and saw something that would give her nightmares for the rest of her life. The building was coming apart, but not like a normal collapse. It was unfolding like origami in reverse, revealing something huge and impossible underneath. The thing that emerged from the temple was not from their universe. It was made of light and shadow and space itself, constantly changing shape but always huge, always terrible. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere at once, from the ground and the sky and from inside Lisa's own head. "Who dares disturb my sacred rest?" the voice said, and the words felt like ice water in Lisa's veins. "Who dares defile my temple and steal my power?" The thing looked down at the tiny figures of the dig team, and Lisa felt its attention like a physical weight. When it looked at her, she saw intelligence older than stars, and rage that could burn planets. "I am Vorthak the Eternal," the voice said, "and you have made a very, very grave mistake." The space god rose into the sky, growing larger as it climbed. Soon it was the size of a mountain, then the size of a moon. In the distance, Lisa could see the lights of spaceships, the Zephyrian and Calarian fleets that had been patrolling the system. Vorthak gestured, and the nearest ship simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not exploded, just gone, as if it had never been there at all. "Run," Lisa whispered, then louder, "Run." They ran toward their shuttle as the space god began its work of destruction. Behind them, the temple finished unfolding, revealing more impossible geometry that hurt to look at. Above them, Vorthak was systematically erasing every ship in the system, one by one. Lisa knew, with horrible certainty, that this was only the beginning. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council had never seen so many species gathered in one place. Representatives from 47 different worlds sat in the great circular chamber on the neutral planet of Harmony Station. The air was thick, with tension and the smell of fierce sweat from a dozen different alien biologies. Lisa Morgan sat in the small section reserved for humans, feeling very alone. Earth had only been part of the galactic community for 50 years, and humans were still considered the new kids who didn't understand how things worked. Today she was the only human in a room full of beings who had ruled space for thousands of years. 3 days had passed since Vorthak had awakened on Kalos Prime. 3 days of horror that had shaken the entire galaxy. The space god had not stayed on that dead world. After destroying every ship in the Kalos system, Vorthak had somehow moved across vast distances of space in minutes. The entity appeared next at Zephyr Prime, the homeworld of Commander Zaxthul's people. Lisa had watched the news reports with growing horror. Vorthak had not destroyed the planet completely. Instead, the space god had done something worse. Every city on Zephyr Prime had been twisted into impossible shapes. Buildings grew like plants, reaching toward the sky in spirals that hurt to look at. The people inside were not killed but changed. They could no longer speak or think properly. They wandered their twisted cities like sleepwalkers, unable to remember who they had been. After Zephyr Prime came the Calarian colonies. 3 worlds full of the insect-like scientists who had helped drill into the sacred crystals. Vorthak visited each one, and each time the punishment was different but equally terrible. On one world, all the technology simply stopped working. Machines that had run for centuries suddenly became silent hunks of metal. On another world, time itself moved wrong. A day lasted a month, and the people aged and died while their families watched helplessly. "The situation is beyond critical," announced High Counselor Thane, an ancient turtle-like being who had led the council for 200 years. "This entity has shown power beyond anything in our records. Our greatest weapons are useless against it." General Corvus, the military leader of the Centaurian Republic, stood up. His people looked almost human, except for their silver skin and black eyes. We deployed the Omega fleet against the entity near the Helix Nebula. 50 of our most advanced warships armed with planet-killer weapons. The entity destroyed them all without effort. Lisa had seen that battle on the news feeds. The Centaurian ships had fired everything they had at Vorthak. Energy beams that could cut through moons, missiles that could crack planets, reality-warping devices that could bend space itself. None of it had even slowed the space god down. Vorthak had simply looked at the fleet and all 50 ships had turned to dust. "What about the Etherian mind melders?" asked Dr. Yikshin, the representative from the Crystal Worlds. Surely beings of pure thought could find a way to communicate with this entity. The Etherian delegate, a floating ball of light named Zephys, pulsed with sad colors. We tried. 3 of our greatest minds attempted to make contact. The entity's thoughts burned them out completely. They are alive, but they will never think again. Fear filled the chamber like a living thing. These were the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and they were all terrified. Lisa had never seen anything like it. Even during the great wars between species, there had always been hope. Now, for the first time in galactic history, they faced something that might be unstoppable. "Perhaps we should consider evacuation," suggested Ambassador Krill from the Outer Rim territories. "Move all our people to distant galaxies where this entity cannot find us. And abandon everything we have built?" General Corvus slammed his fist on the table. "Never. There must be a way to fight this thing." Lisa stood up slowly. The chamber fell silent as hundreds of alien eyes turned toward her. She could feel their judgment, their certainty that a primitive human had nothing useful to add to their discussion. "I have been studying the inscriptions from the temple," she said, her voice sounding small in the vast chamber. "I think I know why Vorthak is doing this." High Counselor Thane made a gesture for her to continue, though Lisa could see the doubt in his ancient eyes. "The entity is not just randomly destroying things," Lisa continued. "It is following a pattern. Every target has been connected to the species that violated its temple. The Zephyrians who commanded the mission. The Calarians who operated the equipment. It is punishing everyone who was involved in disturbing its rest." "We already know this," General Corvus said with obvious irritation. "What we need is a way to stop it." Lisa took a deep breath. The inscriptions mention something called the Rite of Contrition. It is a way to ask forgiveness from cosmic entities, but it requires something very specific. Someone has to take responsibility, not just for their own actions, but for the actions of their entire species. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Several delegates stood up shouting at once. "Impossible," cried the Zephyrian representative. "We will not bow to this creature. My people have never asked forgiveness from anyone," declared the Calarian delegate. Lisa waited for the noise to die down, then continued. "The inscriptions also say that only certain types of minds can perform the rite. Beings who can feel guilt for things they did not personally do. Beings who can care about the suffering of people they have never met." She paused, looking around the chamber at all the alien faces. "Most species evolved past those feelings long ago. You became logical, efficient, focused on your own survival and advancement. But humans, we still carry that guilt. We still feel responsible for each other." High Counselor Thane leaned forward. "Are you suggesting that a human could somehow stop this entity?" "I am suggesting that a human might be able to speak to it," Lisa said. "To ask for forgiveness in a way it would understand and accept." The chamber fell silent again. Lisa could see the wheels turning in dozens of alien minds. They were considering her proposal, not because they believed in it, but because they were desperate. "Even if this were possible," General Corvus said slowly, "who would attempt such a thing? The entity destroys anyone who approaches it." Lisa's heart was pounding, but she kept her voice steady. "I would. I was there when we broke the seal. I saw what we did to its sacred place. If anyone should ask for forgiveness, it should be me." The silence stretched on for long minutes. Finally, High Counselor Thane spoke. "The Council will consider this proposal. In the meantime, We must continue trying to find other solutions. But Lisa could see it in their eyes. They were running out of options. Soon they would have to choose between her desperate plan and watching their entire civilization be destroyed by an angry god. Outside the council chamber, Captain Jake Sullivan, of the human exploration ship New Horizon, was waiting for her. His weathered face was grim with worry. "Lisa, what you are proposing is suicide," he said quietly. "Maybe," Lisa replied, "but it might be the only chance we have." As they talked, emergency broadcasts were coming in from across the galaxy. Vorthak had appeared in the spiral arm systems, and 5 more worlds had fallen to its terrible power. Time was running out, and soon someone would have to face the space god directly. Lisa had not slept in 4 days. Her small quarters on Harmony Station were covered with papers, data tablets, and holographic displays showing the ancient symbols from the temple. Empty coffee cups and food containers sat forgotten on every surface. Her eyes burned from staring at the alien writing, but she could not stop. Not when the galaxy was dying around her. The news kept getting worse. Vorthak had destroyed 12 more star systems in the past week. Each attack was different, each punishment perfectly designed to cause maximum suffering. The space god seemed to know exactly how to hurt each species in the way they feared most. The aquatic worlds of the Delian Empire had their oceans turned to acid. The proud warrior clans of the Brass Kingdoms found their weapons fused to their hands, unable to fight or put them down. The peaceful gardener species of New Eden watched their beautiful planet cities wither and die in minutes. But Lisa was close to something. She could feel it. The symbols were starting to make sense, like pieces of a puzzle falling into place. The ancient language was not like any she had studied before. It was not just words on stone. It was a way of thinking, a way of understanding the universe that was completely alien to modern minds. A soft chime told her someone was at her door. She opened it to find Captain Jake Sullivan standing in the hallway. He looked as tired as she felt. His usually neat uniform was wrinkled and his brown eyes were red with exhaustion. "Any luck?" he asked, stepping into her cluttered room. "Maybe," Lisa said, pointing to her latest translation work. "I think I finally understand what the rite of contrition actually is. It is not just an apology. It is something much more complex." Jake sat down in the only clean chair, moving aside a stack of research papers. "Tell me." Lisa picked up a tablet showing the temple symbols. The ancient beings who built that temple understood something about the nature of guilt and responsibility that we have forgotten. They knew that true forgiveness requires more than just saying sorry. It requires someone to genuinely feel the weight of what was done. "But you were not the one who made the decision to drill into the crystal," Jake said. "Commander Zax Thule gave that order." "That does not matter," Lisa replied. "The rite requires someone to take responsibility for the actions of all the involved parties. Not just their own people, but everyone who participated in the wrongdoing. I have to feel guilty for what the Zephyrians did, what the Calarians did, what everyone did." Jake frowned. "How is that even possible? How can you feel guilty for things other people decided to do?" Lisa laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Jake, I have felt guilty for things I had nothing to do with my entire life. When I see homeless people on the street, I feel guilty that I have a home. When I hear about wars on distant planets, I feel guilty that I am safe. When I read about extinct species, I feel guilty that humans are still alive. It is just how humans are built." "That sounds terrible," Jake said quietly. "It is," Lisa agreed. "But it might also be the thing that saves us all." She turned on a holographic display that showed a 3-dimensional model of the temple symbols. The rite has 3 parts. First, acknowledgement. The person performing the rite must truly understand what was done wrong and why it was wrong. Second, acceptance. They must accept responsibility not just for their own actions, but for the actions of everyone involved. Third, offering. They must offer something of value to make up for the damage. Jake studied the symbols floating in the air. "What kind of offering?" Lisa's face went pale. "Usually their life. The ancient texts are clear about this. The rite almost always requires the death of the person performing it. No, Jake said immediately. Absolutely not. We will find another way. What other way? Lisa asked. The combined fleets of 47 worlds could not even scratch Vorthak. Our most advanced weapons are useless. Our best scientists cannot understand how its power works. Our psychic species cannot communicate with it. What else is there? Before Jake could answer, both of their communication devices started beeping with emergency alerts. They looked at the message and felt their hearts sink. Vorthak had appeared in the Sol system. Earth itself was under threat. We are out of time, Lisa said. I have to try the rite now before Vorthak destroys my homeworld. Jake grabbed her arm. Lisa, even if this works, even if you can communicate with Vorthak, what makes you think it will accept your apology? This thing has destroyed dozens of worlds. Why would it suddenly decide to forgive everyone? Lisa pulled up another section of her translation work. Because that is what the ancient texts say cosmic entities like Vorthak are looking for. They are not just destroyers. They are teachers. They punish civilizations that become too proud, too arrogant, too willing to take what does not belong to them. She pointed to a particularly complex symbol. This word appears over and over in the temple inscriptions. I think it means something, like humility or wisdom through suffering. Vorthak is not trying to wipe out all life in the galaxy. It is trying to teach us a lesson. A lesson that has killed billions of people, Jake said angrily. Yes, Lisa replied sadly. But maybe that is the point. Maybe the lesson only has meaning if the cost is high enough. An hour later, Lisa stood, in the main hangar of Harmony Station, looking at the ship that might carry her to her death. The Voidwalker was the fastest vessel the Galactic Alliance could provide, built with technology from a dozen different species. It was sleek and deadly looking, covered in advanced weapons and defensive systems that would normally be more than enough to handle any threat in the galaxy. Against Vorthak, it would probably last about 30 seconds. Amy Rodriguez, the ship's engineer, was making final checks on the engines. She was a small woman with dark hair and quick hands, one of the best technical specialists in the human fleet. Pete Johnson, the navigator, was running through the flight calculations one more time. He was tall and quiet, the kind of person you could trust to get you where you needed to go, no matter how dangerous the journey. Both of them had volunteered to go with Lisa, even though they knew it was almost certainly a suicide mission. The engines are running perfectly, Amy reported. All defensive systems are online. The reality stabilizers should protect us from the worst of Vorthak's space warping effects, at least for a little while. Navigation is locked in, Pete added. We can reach Vorthak's current position in 18 hours if we push the engines to maximum. Lisa nodded. She was wearing a special suit covered in the ancient symbols she had translated. Each symbol had been carefully painted in the exact colors and patterns shown in the temple inscriptions. If the rite was going to work, every detail had to be perfect. Are you sure about this? Jake asked one more time. He would be staying behind to coordinate with the Galactic Fleet, ready to evacuate as many people as possible if Lisa's plan failed. No, Lisa said honestly. I am not sure about anything, but I am the only person who understands the ancient language well enough to attempt the rite. And I am probably the only person in the galaxy who can genuinely feel guilty enough about what happened to make it believable. She paused, looking around at all the alien beings who had gathered to see them off. Representatives from dozens of species, all of them hoping that 3 humans in a small ship could somehow save their entire civilization. Besides, Lisa added with a small smile, someone once told me that humans are supposed to be good at impossible things. The Voidwalker lifted off from Harmony Station and disappeared into hyperspace, carrying 3 humans toward a confrontation with a god. Behind them, the galaxy held its breath and waited to see if the most primitive species in galactic society could somehow succeed where all the advanced civilizations had failed. The space around Vorthak was wrong. That was the only way Lisa could describe it as the Voidwalker approached the cosmic entity. Stars bent in impossible directions, and colors that had no names swirled through the darkness. Even looking at the sensor readings made her head hurt. Distance to target 2 million kilometers and closing. Pete Johnson reported from the navigation station. His voice was steady, but Lisa could see his hands shaking as he worked the controls. Amy Rodriguez was hunched over her engineering console, fighting to keep their ship intact. The reality stabilizers are at maximum power, but they will not hold much longer. Whatever that thing is doing to space-time, it is tearing our hull apart at the molecular level. Through the main view screen, Lisa could see the debris field that surrounded Vorthak. The twisted remains of thousands of ships floated in the cosmic storm. Zephyrian cruisers, Calarian research vessels, Centaurian warships, and dozens of other designs she did not recognize. All of them had tried to fight the space god. All of them had failed. At the center of the destruction, Vorthak hung in space like a living storm. The entity was constantly changing shape, sometimes looking like a massive humanoid figure made of stars and shadow, sometimes becoming a writhing mass of energy that hurt to look at directly. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time, and Lisa understood why ancient civilizations had worshipped beings like this. 1,000,000 kilometers, Pete announced. Lisa, if we get much closer, the ship will not survive. Lisa stood up from her seat, her special suit heavy with the weight of the ancient symbols painted on its surface. This is close enough. Open. A communication channel. To what? Amy asked. That thing does not use any kind of technology we understand. The ancient texts say cosmic entities can hear thoughts directed at them, Lisa replied. Just broadcast on all frequencies and hope for the best. Amy's fingers flew over her controls, and suddenly every communication system on the ship was active at once. Radio waves, quantum entanglement channels, psychic amplifiers, even basic light signals. Everything they had was focused on the entity ahead of them. Lisa closed her eyes and reached out with her mind, trying to touch the vast consciousness. That was Vorthak. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the space god noticed them. The attention of a cosmic entity was like being caught in the beam of a searchlight made of pure thought. Lisa felt Vorthak's awareness slam into her mind with the force of a planet falling from orbit. She screamed and fell to her knees, blood running from her nose. The voice that spoke to them came from everywhere at once, from the ship's speakers, from the metal walls, from inside their own heads. More insects come to die, Vorthak said, and each word was like thunder in their bones. Have you not seen what becomes of those who approach me? Have you not learned that your weapons are useless against my power? Lisa struggled to her feet, wiping the blood from her face. We did not come to fight you, great Vorthak. We came to speak. The entity's laughter shook their ship like a toy. Speak? What could insects have to say that would interest me? You are the same species that defiled my sacred temple. You are the same creatures who stole my power for your petty purposes. Yes, Lisa said, and her simple agreement seemed to surprise the space god. We are exactly those creatures, and I have come to perform the rite of contrition. The laughter stopped. The cosmic storm around Vorthak grew still. When the entity spoke again, its voice was different, curious instead of angry. You know of the ancient ways? Impossible. Your species has existed for barely a moment in cosmic time. You have no knowledge of the old laws. Lisa reached into her suit and pulled out a small device that projected holographic images of the temple symbols. I have spent months translating the inscriptions from your temple. I know what we did wrong, I know why you are angry, and I know what must be done to make it right. Vorthak leaned closer, and suddenly the entity was much larger than before. Its face, when it had a face, was the size of a moon, and its eyes were like burning stars. Show me, little insect. Show me that you understand. Lisa took a deep breath and began the ritual she had memorized from the ancient texts. But first, she spoke in her own words, from her own heart. We came to your temple without permission. We saw your sacred crystals and thought only of the power they contained. We did not think about what they meant to you. We did not consider that some things are too holy to touch. We broke your resting place because we thought we were smarter than the people who built it. She paused, feeling the weight of what she was about to say. I am sorry, great Vorthak. I'm sorry for what my people did. I'm sorry for what the Zephyrians did. I am sorry for what the Calarians did. I am sorry for all of us. The space god was silent for a long moment. You speak words of contrition, but words are easy. Do you truly feel the weight of what was done? Do you understand the magnitude of the violation? Yes, Lisa whispered, and she meant it. The guilt she felt was like a physical pain in her chest. She could see in her mind the beautiful temple as it had been before they arrived, perfect and peaceful and sacred. She could feel the violation they had committed, the way they had destroyed something precious that could never be replaced. I understand, she continued, and I accept responsibility, not just for my own actions, but for everyone who participated. The guilt is mine to carry. Vorthak studied her with those burning star eyes. Interesting. Your species has a capacity for guilt that is unusual. Most civilizations learn to discard such feelings as they advance. They become efficient, logical, focused only on their own survival and growth. The entity's voice grew thoughtful. But guilt, properly understood, is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is the recognition that one's actions have consequences beyond oneself. It is the foundation of true morality. Lisa felt a spark of hope. Then you will accept my apology? Apology? Vorthak's laughter returned, but it was not mocking this time. Child, the rite of contrition requires more than words. It requires sacrifice. Are you prepared to pay the price for your species' arrogance? Lisa's heart was pounding, but her voice was steady. Yes. If my death will satisfy the ancient law and save the innocent people of the galaxy, then I offer my life freely. The space god leaned back, considering. Your life? Such a small thing. What is one brief mortal existence against the eternal insult done to my sacred place? Lisa felt her hope beginning to die. If her life was not enough, what else could she offer? But then Vorthak spoke again, and there was something new in its voice, something that might have been respect. However, the entity said slowly, the manner of your offering is unprecedented. You offer to die not just for your own crimes, but for the crimes of others. You carry guilt for actions you did not commit, for decisions you did not make. This shows a type of consciousness that I have not encountered in many eons. The space god was quiet for several minutes, and Lisa could feel its vast mind working through concepts too large for her to understand. Finally, Vorthak spoke again. Tell me, little mortal, why do you feel responsible for the actions of others? Why do you carry guilt that is not yours to bear? Lisa thought about the question, trying to find words for something she had never really examined before, because we are all connected. When someone suffers, we all suffer a little. When someone does wrong, we are all diminished by it. I cannot be truly happy while others are in pain. I cannot be truly innocent while others commit evil acts in my... She paused, then added quietly, maybe that makes me weak. Maybe that makes humans primitive compared to the other species. But it also makes us responsible for each other. And if we are responsible for each other, then someone has to answer for what we have all done. Vorthak stared at her for a long time, and Lisa felt the weight of that cosmic attention like a mountain on her shoulders. Finally, the space god spoke, and its voice held something that sounded almost like wonder. Perhaps, Vorthak said, there is more to your species than I first believed. Vorthak was silent for what felt like hours. Lisa stood on the bridge of the Voidwalker, her heart pounding as she waited for the space god's judgment. Around them, the cosmic storm continued to rage, bending reality into impossible shapes. But within that storm, she sensed something changing. Finally, the entity spoke again, and its voice was different now. Less angry, more thoughtful. In all my eons of existence, Vorthak said, I have encountered countless civilizations. Some begged for mercy. Some offered treasures beyond imagination. Some threatened me with weapons that could crack stars. But never has anyone offered to carry the guilt of others freely. Lisa felt a flicker of hope, but she tried to keep it under control. Does that mean you will accept my offering? Your offering, Vorthak repeated slowly. Yes, let us speak of that. You offer your life to save billions of others. A noble gesture. But I have a different proposal for you, little mortal. The space god's form shifted, becoming more solid and defined. Now it looked almost human, though still impossibly large and made of starlight and shadow. Its face was ancient beyond measure, but there was something in its eyes that might have been kindness. I could indeed take your life and consider the debt paid, Vorthak continued. Your death would satisfy the ancient laws and end my campaign of retribution. The galaxy would be safe, and your name would be remembered as the human who saved everyone. Lisa nodded. That is all I ask. But, Vorthak said, raising one massive hand, what would happen the next time? What would prevent another species from making the same mistake in 1,000 years? What would stop them from disturbing another sacred place, awakening another cosmic entity, causing another cycle of destruction? Lisa frowned, not understanding where this was leading. Vorthak leaned closer, its star eyes burning with intensity. You see, child, I am not the only one of my kind. There are others like me scattered across the universe, sleeping in hidden places, waiting in dimensions beyond your understanding. And there are young civilizations everywhere, growing proud and careless, making the same mistakes over and over. Again, the entity gestured, and suddenly Lisa could see them. Brief flashes of other cosmic beings, other ancient powers that slumbered in forgotten corners of reality. Some looked like Vorthak, others were completely alien, but all of them radiated the same terrible power. The cycle has repeated countless times, Vorthak explained. A civilization grows advanced. They disturb something they should not. They awaken forces beyond their understanding and destruction follows. It happened to the precursors 50 million years ago. It happened to the star builders before them. It will happen again. Lisa felt a chill of understanding. Unless someone breaks the cycle. Precisely, Vorthak said, and something that might have been a smile crossed its cosmic features. You have shown me something I had not seen before. A species that can feel responsibility for others, even for strangers, even for enemies. This is a rare gift and one that could be put to better use than simple martyrdom. The space god's form began to change again, becoming smaller and more human-like, though still clearly not mortal. I offer you a choice, Lisa Morgan. You can die here and now, your sacrifice ending my wrath and saving your galaxy, or you can live and serve a greater purpose. What kind of purpose? Lisa asked, though part of her already knew the answer. Become my ambassador, Vorthak said. Be the bridge between cosmic entities and mortal civilizations. When young species grow too proud, warn them. When they approach forbidden knowledge, guide them away. When they disturb ancient powers, help them understand what they have done and how to make amends. Lisa stared at the entity in shock. You want me to become some kind of cosmic mediator? I want you to prevent future tragedies, Vorthak replied. Your species has something special, the ability to feel guilt and responsibility for others. Use that gift to keep other civilizations from making the same mistakes. Be the conscience that the galaxy has been lacking. Behind Lisa, Amy Rodriguez and Pete Johnson watched in amazement as their friend received an offer that would change not just her life, but the entire balance of power in the universe. What about my friends? Lisa asked. What about my home? They would be safe, Vorthak assured her. And you would not be alone in this task. Others would join you, humans and aliens alike who share your capacity for empathy and moral courage. Together you could create something new, a force dedicated to preventing cosmic disasters before they begin. Lisa thought about all the worlds that had already been destroyed or transformed by Vorthak's wrath. She thought about the billions of innocent people who had suffered because a few scientists had been too proud to listen to warnings. She thought about the future and all the tragedies that could be prevented. If I accept, she said slowly, what happens to you? Do you go back to sleep? Vorthak's laugh was like distant thunder, but gentle now instead of threatening. I will rest, yes, but not in some hidden temple. I will remain available, ready to counsel and guide when needed. The age of sleeping gods is ending, child. It is time for us to work with mortal civilizations instead of hiding from them. Lisa looked back at her friends, seeing the mixture of pride and sadness in their faces. They knew what she was going to choose before she said it. I accept, Lisa said quietly. But I have conditions. The space god raised one cosmic eyebrow. You would bargain with me? I would negotiate, Lisa corrected. If I am going to represent mortal interests to cosmic entities, then I need to be able to speak for mortals, not just serve the interests of gods. Vorthak considered this, then nodded slowly. Speak your terms. First, the damage you have already done must be repaired where possible. The twisted cities, the broken worlds, the people who have been changed. They should be healed. Agreed, Vorthak said immediately. The punishment was meant to teach, not to cause permanent suffering. Second, Amy and Pete come with me. If I'm going to do this job, I need people I trust to help me, and I need engineers and navigators more than I need cosmic power. Amy and Pete exchanged glances, then nodded firmly. They had followed Lisa this far. They would follow her to the end. Also agreed, Vorthak said, seeming amused by the request. Third, this new organization we create, it has to be independent, not controlled by the Galactic Council, not controlled by any one species, and not controlled by you. We serve the greater good, not politics. Vorthak was quiet for a moment, then smiled. Actually smiled with warmth and genuine respect. You truly are remarkable, Lisa Morgan. Yes, your organization will be independent. You will have my support, but not my control. The space god raised one hand, and suddenly Lisa felt power flowing into her. Not the kind of raw cosmic force that Vorthak wielded, but something different. Knowledge, understanding, the ability to sense and communicate with entities beyond normal reality. Welcome to your new life, Vorthak said. Ambassador of the Cosmic Mediation Corps. Lisa felt the change taking hold, cosmic symbols appearing on her skin like living tattoos. She was still human, still herself, but now she was something more. A bridge between worlds, a voice for both mortals and immortals. So what happens now? Pete asked, speaking for the first time since they had approached Vorthak. Now we go home, Lisa said, smiling despite everything that had happened. We have a lot of work to do. A galaxy to heal, new protocols to establish, and a future to build. As the Voidwalker turned away from Vorthak and headed back toward Harmony Station, Lisa looked out at the stars and felt a deep sense of purpose. The galaxy was still full of proud civilizations that thought they knew everything. It was still full of ancient powers that could destroy worlds if provoked. But now, for the first time in cosmic history, there would be someone watching over both sides. Someone who understood that the greatest strength was not power or knowledge or pride, but the simple ability to care about others. The age of sleeping gods was ending. The age of cooperation was about to begin. And it had all started because one human refused to stop feeling guilty about things that were not her fault. Sometimes, Lisa thought as they jumped to hyperspace, the things that make you weak are exactly the things that make you strong.